Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I welcome our witnesses and thank them for their years of distinguished service. I want to associate myself with the generous words of appreciation that the distinguished chairman has made with regard to Admiral Gilday and General Berger. I would add to that my appreciation for the talented team of Marines and sailors who are seated behind you and who've been such a great help to all of us in our efforts to get this right. I also want to share and associate myself with the remarks made by the distinguished chairman and his concern that the budget proposal would take us in the wrong direction. And I think on a bipartisan basis, we'll be able to rectify that. Members of this committee know all too well that the Chinese Communist Party represents a major threat to the nation. Today, we are in a more complex and sobering threat environment than we have been in since World War II. In that war, our economy was larger than all of our adversaries combined, with an unmatched industrial base. We no longer enjoy that advantage, not by a long shot. The evidence is clear. China has launched 75 new warships since 2018, compared to our 35. 75 to our 35. China has over 200 hardened aircraft shelters, more than 8 times what we have available in the Western Pacific. And there are other examples of this imbalance. I'm troubled by China's recent creation of defense mobilization offices, air raid shelters, and wartime emergency hospitals. China is rapidly expanding its military forces and preparedness. We cannot be complacent in our response. And yet, late yesterday, the Navy submitted its statutorily required 30-year shipbuilding plan, which seems to embrace complacency. Even in the most aggressive alternative plan, the Navy would not reach the statutory 355 ship requirement until fiscal year 2042. Compared to last year's plan, it trades 35 amphibious warfare ships for support vessels, harming the ability of our Marines to project force. The Navy's FY24 budget request is anemic. Under the President's proposal, the size of the fleet would shrink further. Let me be clear, this budget request has failed yet again to build a U.S. Navy fleet that is capable of meeting even basic tasks, to say nothing of growing strong enough to deter near-term threats. Thankfully, there is bipartisan agreement that we must substantially increase the shipbuilding budget. I'm concerned with production constraints at our shipyards. Despite congressional support, the Navy has proved unable to achieve delivery of 2 attack subs per year, 3 destroyers per year, and 2 frigates per year. This trend puts us further and further behind the goal to build the Navy we need. Expanding our shipbuilding capacity will require generational investments combined with new approaches to growing the workforce. Growing our shipbuilding capacity will also require stable demand signals to industry. The Navy introduced uncertainty in the shipbuilding industry by excluding the LPD amphibious ship from the FY24 budget. Congress has reversed decisions like this in the past, and I certainly hope and actually am confident that we will do so again this year for LPD 33. I'm also concerned about ship maintenance, which is essential to avoiding a smaller fleet available in the near term. Lack of investment in maintenance, together with rising requirements, has left the fleet in brittle condition. As a result of decades of deferred maintenance, the Navy wants to decommission 11 ships, including 8 before the end of their expected service life. This strategy of divest to invest does not work. In fact, that failed doctrine is a contributing reason we are in this predicament. The assumptions included in this budget have the size of the fleet shrinking even more in the next 5 years. I see a whole lot of divest and very little invest in this budget. I fully expect that Congress will work together in a bipartisan and patriotic way to put a stop to this disgraceful lack of commitment to our naval forces. And finally, I'm concerned that the Navy is not sufficiently leveraging promising new technologies. This is in contrast to the Marine Corps, which has embraced innovative concepts and equipment relevant to the high-end fight. The Navy should adopt resilient communication advances, invest in autonomous technology, make use of additive manufacturing, such as 3D printing, and move to alternative materials such as composites. Navy acquisition must do a better job of moving cutting-edge programs into production and do so urgently. A Western Pacific conflict would lean heavily on our naval and air forces. Congress needs to exercise its constitutional obligation to provide these resources, the equipment and ships necessary to provide for the common defense, and I'm certain we will. So thank you all for your service, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.